is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
He is the man, the myth, the legend that is Ira Winderman. How you doing, Mr. Winderman?
I'm doing good. On one hand, I sort of feel like the NBA season's over. On the other hand, a week from today, we likely will have a new Heat first-round draft choice. You will be peppering me about how the Heat are going to handle free agency. So it doesn't stop. It just restarts all over again. You know this from the NFL and other sports. The NBA has learned, like the NFL, to be a 12-month-a-year cycle.
Yeah.
I am stopping now, and I am starting again.
That's right. That's right. Because when he used to do other hits in the local station, it was only seasonal. And so when he started with me on Onside and now here on the podcast, I told him, well, hey, no, this is a year-round thing, dude. NBA, NFL, they are year-round. They don't take time off, and we're not going to take time off. We'll be in Vegas with Ira and Anthony, and so we'll have that. So I get to bug you even in person in Las Vegas because you're going to come by Tommie Rockers to do your hit and join us there.
Sure, and I'll be able to smell the bourbon in your sweat, so that'll be awesome, Big O.
Bourbon? Damn, you got me hitting it hard. All right, so yesterday, I was talking about this because it's so fun. We create narratives.
Mm-hmm.
We try to follow them and all that. And one of the narratives we had is we were so hung up with Steph Curry. He hasn't won an NBA Finals MVP and all this stuff. And the first question was about that. And I loved his response, how it was more important about the team success, that he wasn't really worried. And it's interesting to see. And I think we have, I guess some of us have trouble thinking that these guys are not always thinking about themselves, but there's actually players that do think about the big picture instead. And he's one of those guys, whether you'd like to admit it or not, he's probably one of those guys that really enjoys the team accomplishment.
And first of all, I mean, I've been doing this for 3 decades now, 4 decades actually into, and I don't remember who the hell was a Finals MVP, nor do I care. It's such a transitory award anyway.
Amen.
But what I will say about this and Steph and players who talk about the team, you tend to talk about your team more when your team maintains a core. When you can look around and see, oh, there's Draymond again, there's Clay again, there's Andre again. And I think that's why it's so important to build on something and not to be like a lot of fans on the Big O Show will tell you, hey, they got to trade this guy. They've got to break it up. They've got to start all over again. When you have a core, when you have guys who are meshed together, they feel for each other. They play for each other. They win for each other. When you're the Marlins and you go out and you buy a team for 1 year and you break it up and you buy a team for another year, you don't hear Josh Beckett talking about, I did this for my guys, because my guys weren't my guys last year and won't be my guys next year.
Right.
So what the Warriors did, even when they went to the bottom, worst record, when Steph was injured, when Clay was injured, they held it together. So when they got back, you heard them talking last night about Andre Iguodala, even though he had been away, even though he didn't play, even though he only entered for the final minute yesterday to get on the court, because it meant more. You hear Eric Spoelstra talk all the time. People, I got to change the coach, need to change Spo. No, when you hold something together, there is a communal feel to it. That's what we saw from the Warriors. That's what we saw from the Spurs, right? Spurs won a few, didn't a few other years, but it was always Manu, Tony Parker, and Robinson for a while, and then Tim Duncan, and those guys being together, and that meant something. The Raptors, a transitory championship. Kawhi shows up 1 year, leaves the next year. That didn't leave Kyle Lowry wanting to stay because his team was changing. It was Siakam coming in. It was new guys. So I do hope, for as much as people want to break apart the Heat, I would like to see Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, and honestly, and Tyler Hero. And some of this stayed together. So you could say, you know what? I saw this first in the finals in 2020 in the bubble against the Lakers. And I saw this in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2022. So when you do win it, you haven't won it with your rental players, with your buy a championship. You've won it with your team. That was the connection to, number one, to the team that won, the big 3 team that won 2 championships, went to 4 finals. It was almost always the same guys. It was Dwayne, it was Chris, it was LeBron. Mostly it was Mike Miller. It was those guys, Joel Anthony. It was those guys together. Even when they won in 2006, It was Dwayne and Shaq from the loss in 2005 against the Pistons coming together. So all of this, we hear on the Big O show and our Acura Pembroke Pines report, you've got to get rid of this guy. You've got to blow this out. You've got to change. When you have cohesion, you feel more like a team. I think that's what we saw from the Warriors celebration last night.
Yeah, it was it was impressive. Now, and here's the scary part. They probably can be better next year because Clay was probably playing 80%
He
maybe.
was horrible. He was
Yeah.
horrible last night.
Yeah, it's like he's not really himself yet, and you can tell. And so he'll have this whole a whole off season to kind of get that body, back to where it was. I don't know if he will be able to, but if he can get closer to 100% to where he used to be, look out, man. The Warriors can be even scarier next year, with a really healthy Klay Thompson.
Yeah, and again, and they have Jonathan Wiseman coming back. So they also have their youth. And they really pointed it out, the Warriors, after last night, how we have a young core also. We have other young guys. They took the chance on Wiggins. It worked out perfectly. Jordan Poole came out of nowhere. Now, they will be hellaciously into the luxury tax. They will pay more in luxury tax than some teams will pay in their payroll. This, again, is the divide you think. With the luxury tax and a salary cap, you can avoid the baseball, the Yankees buy whatever they want, everyone else is screwed. There still is some of that. And with the revenue of the Chase Center and the money in the Bay Area, there will always be an inherent advantage. But, Big O, and this is important, and we talk about this in our Acura Pembroke Pines report here, it is about more than that. Because the Knicks have the money. The Knicks are willing to spend. The Nets were willing to spend. It takes more than that. It takes solid management. Bob Myers, we've seen that out there. Here, Andy Ellisberg, Pat Riley. Commitment to continuity and coaching.
Right.
Steve Kerr, through the good, through the bad. Big O, you remember this. Steve Kerr missed almost a year with the migraines after his back surgery.
Right, the back surgery, yeah.
And Luke Walton came in and coached, and they had all that going on, but they stayed the course. This is the Warriors' way. Same thing with the Heat. This is the Spoelstra way. For weeks now, I've been dealing with you. Why didn't Spo do this? Why didn't Spo do that? Okay. Maybe he had a moment or not a moment, but still we know. Last year was the Eric Spoelstra way. Next year is the Eric Spoelstra way. There's a lot of commonality there between the Warriors and the Heat. And even after last night's game on Draymond Green's podcast, maybe you can pull this out later or on your other shows, he said by going to the Heat last year, he learned from the culture how much you can contribute by not playing. And he basically was praising Udonis Haslem in the same role, that I helped our guys get here, even without playing. And Draymond Green probably hyperbole said, you can make an argument that Andre Iguodala contributed more this year than when he won Finals MVP. So again, it's stability. I wish we could see it in more of our teams. I think the Panthers are coming around to that to a degree. I will never believe that with the Marlins. The Dolphins, let's see if they actually stay with a coach for more than a month. And you can see, Big O, what continuity does for you as a franchise.
Yeah, I mean, the Dolphins haven't had continuity because they haven't found the right person to stay behind so they can keep it going. The Marlins haven't made a financial commitment. That's their problem. The Panthers are totally committed. They just have to get the right.
They just started, though. Yes, they appear on a path to
Right.
commitment, and I agree with that. The
owners are more than committed.
More stable, front office more stable, but still they have an interim coach who, as of today, when we tape this podcast on our Acura Pembroke Pines report, I'm still not sure the guy's the coach for next year.
No, that's fine, but that wasn't their fault. The whole Coach Q thing surprised
I understand that, right.
I can't blame them. But what I'm saying is Viola and Sifu are top notch. They are truly committed to winning, and that you can support every year, no matter what. So that's the one thing. You know that whether it's Burnett or they're going to go get a veteran coach, either way, they're going to try to do what's best for the organization.
But the coach does matter. The coach does matter for continuity because when I look at John Cooper, not get emotional, behind that Tampa Bay bench, you realize, yep, he is the continuity of the Lightning. Players have come and gone. Barkley Goodrow left. They bring in other players there. Yes, Vasilevsky goal is a constant, but so is the coach. So I think what I'm trying to say to sum this all up is the Warriors continuity win. The Heat continuity have a chance. Other teams in our market, hey, it's a different coach every year. Chris Greer has been the only continuity in the Dolphins with so-so results. And that's the difference. Find the right people. Let the right people stay as the right people.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. The other thing I was thinking about last night. Okay, so Kevin Durant turned in immortality, dynasty, great organization to play with Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and now Ben Simmons. What? I mean, like, karma's. I believe in karma. I'm a guy that I believe you spread good karma more often than not, you're going to get it in return. And I believe if you spread bad karma, eventually it's going to come back to bite you in the ass.
Sure.
Here's a guy that it was all there for him, dude. It was all there for him, and he
And I'm
left
going to
that
argue when you're done that
situation.
it wasn't all there for him.
Why?
Because sometimes, you know what, Big O? It sounds nice when you say you're all in for the team, but not all of us are built that way. Some people are renegades and want to be their own person. Because you know what? As we saw last night, Kevin Durant would have been somewhat in Steph Curry's shadow. It's hard to be in someone's shadow. Sometimes people would rather be themselves free and clear. In Oklahoma City, he was just part of something. It was him. It was Harden. It was Ibaka. It was that team there. It was a little Westbrook. It was just different. Some guys need to be their own guy. I know it sounds beautiful and wonderful. We just spoke about the Warriors, the cliche of being a team and all for one. Not everyone is wired that way. Kevin Durant,
Hey, but Steph and Wade were willing to take steps back and
I'm saying
allow
exactly. You're
Durant to
answering my
excel
point.
and dry.
It's how you're wired.
So my karma point is, you want to be an asshole, you want to be a greedy asshole. Well, here's your reward for being a
And I
greedy
don't
asshole.
think it's a greedy asshole. It's like saying, okay, Big O, you could be part of Odyssey and whatever they call themselves, but your time slot's going to shift and you might not be happy. And at a certain point, you go, no, I want to do my show, my way, the way I feel. That's not being selfish. That's being true to you. Kevin Durant was true to himself. Kevin Durant never lied and never said, we are going to have a better team than what the Warriors had. He didn't. He never said, I'm going to have better teammates than Steph and Clay. He never did. What he wanted, what he said, and what he's proven is, I want my team to be Kevin Durant Incorporated. That's what he has in the Nets. When
Yeah,
you
but
look at the
that,
Nets,
that wasn't a good comparison because Odyssey would have to give me a national spot to make me feel like,
okay, but I'm
okay, now
saying,
you're really supportive of me and all of that, and then I can consider something like that. But if you're gonna compare it to being on a local station
but
with,
what I'm comparing is that some people have sort of a different way of viewing the situations, and you accept that. You know what? Once Kevin Durant left a pretty good situation in Oklahoma City, even to go to Golden State, you knew the cat was different. You knew he was a rental kind of guy. LeBron is shown to be that kind of guy. Where's LeBron's number one commitment? Is it to the Heat, the
no, to himself,
Cavaliers, the Lakers? It's
himself
to billionaire LeBron James.
only.
Look, Ma, I made it. But
Yeah.
we knew that. Pat Riley was a little naive. Pat Riley came from Showtime, came from All In Together with Magic, with Kareem, with Worthy, with all those guys. And I don't think he could ever fully appreciate how LeBron wanted it to be more about himself than about his team. That's where the schism was when he went to Vegas in 2014 and LeBron was watching soccer instead. So I think some guys, Big O, you just have to say that guy is wired that way, and you have to work from that premise. So you can say Kevin Durant was stupid. I'm saying Kevin
Yeah.
is saying true to himself.
Well, I mean, it all depends, right? Because that's not how he started. He was the quiet guy. He was the cool guy. He was the guy that signed the $90 million extension without any fanfare whatsoever. Like, what? Kevin Durant just signed an extension, right? And there was nothing. And then all of a sudden he changed. And I don't know what the hell happened to that guy. And he went from being, Derek Jeter and Tua Tagovailoa and Steph Curry and all those kind of cats, Tony Gwynn, Cal Ripken. He went from being one of those guys to then being whatever the king size a-hole that he's become.
Well, but you know what? Isn't
Weird.
that to a
It was
degree?
weird.
Isn't that to a degree Tom Brady, where he goes to Tampa, puts it in the face of New England, and then apparently is having off-season dalliances about going to the Dolphins after winning a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay? I'm saying there.
Yeah, but hold on a second.
Sure.
No, but Tom Brady's not a first-class jerk, and never been. Not with his Tampa teammates, not with New England, not with
I
whatever.
don't think Kevin Durant's a jerk.
He's just doing business.
I think Kevin
But I'm
Durant's just
saying
doing business for Durant Incorporated.
bro, burner phones, going after people, all kinds of verbal confrontations, stuff
You know
on
what?
social media. Tom Brady is nothing like Kevin
Okay,
Durant.
but Old man Alzugaray, and this is from older man Winderman. Times have changed. It's just different. Again, Michael Jordan, what he was, if there was Twitter, if there were a TMZ Sports following him when he was playing poker and betting on the golf course, we would have a completely different Michael Jordan impression. These are just the times and how people do things. But believe me, Tom Brady's behind the scenes dalliances with the Dolphins. We still don't know if he's coming in to replace Chris Greer, and all that is hardly the stuff of sainthood. But you have to accept today's athletes because I finish up here. Because more than anything, I love watching Kevin Durant play. I love watching Tom Brady play. I love watching LeBron James play. You know what? As sports fan, that's all I ask. That's all I can ask.
Yeah, I just think there's look, Dwayne Wade has had to make moves too, but he's not a jerk in the process. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just, I just think Durant is a guy that has like Tom Brady doesn't rub people the wrong way.
But again, it's how you let yourself get rubbed. And basically you're telling Kevin Durant, get off my lawn. Okay, I get that. And we can all have our own way. The one thing I've learned covering these athletes with the Heat for 34 years and even longer is you really got to accept that it's just a different era and a different time and a different way between social media and self-promotion. That's just the way it is, whether you call it trolling, whether you call it, taking, making things personal when they shouldn't be, whether you call it selfishness. Selfishness is part of sports now also. It just is.
Oh, wait, don't start with the rubbing stuff because then we got to get into Deshaun Watson. That's just not the conversation I want to have anymore right now. Come on. I mean, you start with the rubbing stuff. All right. So now we turn to the draft.
Okay.
Is your gut telling you they're drafting that, or will that be a trade? Because I know you're saying, well, we're going to be talking about the 27th pick. I just get a feeling that we're never going to meet that 27th.
Yeah, there's two things that are going to happen. On draft night, Adam Silver's going to hand a Miami Heat hat, I believe, to a player selected by the Miami Heat. I wonder how snug the fit will be. But again, I spoke to you about this when we spoke with Clay on our Slomin's Home Security Inside the Paint show on Wednesday. The tell will be this, Big O. Will there be a press conference with said first-round pick the following day or next weekend? Or will the Heat go, no, we're going to hold off on that press conference a little bit because player 27 is included with Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero for a blockbuster trade to be announced on July 6th. So keep an eye out on how the Heat social media and media relations handle the pick at 27. Most likely, I think they will pick at 27. Maybe by then we'll already know through Woj, through Cham, through someone else, through Jordan Schultz. He'll tell us, hey, no, they're picking this player for someone else on their Twitter. But this is living in the moment. You pointed this out. Jimmy Butler, 32. Kyle Lowry, 36. PJ Tucker, 37. This is now. They have future. They have Bam. As of now, they have Tyler. They will have a first-round pick again next year. They will have to exercise because then the pick could possibly go to Oklahoma City starting the year after that. So, yeah, I'm not so sure. We will have enough tells on draft night to know if the Heat's keeping the player. But I also will say this. Don't expect number 27 to come in and be in the starting lineup. And I wrote about that today at the Sun Sentinel. If the Heat do lose PJ Tucker to free agency because he opts out for more, there's not a single power forward on the roster as long as Bam's going to play center. That will be about free agency. Big O, it's always about free agency and the trade market for Pat Riley.
Yeah, no doubt. By the way, speaking of power forwards, if they didn't get the whale, that next tier backup plan, one of the guys I mentioned was Christian Wood. Okay. Speaking of Sporting Wood and Deshaun Watson, Christian Wood, let's talk a little bit about Christian Wood. What did you think of that deal? Because I didn't think the Mavericks gave up much.
No, it was totally a preemptive move. I think Dallas knew that he wanted him, and it basically was, why take 27? We can give you 26. And it could, that's who Mark Cuban is. But the Heat did not have the salaries to match Christian Wood's come within the percentage of $14 million. Dallas had four $3 million contracts to put in play. The Heat do not.
Duncan Robinson, we'll give you Duncan.
And the reason that Houston didn't want that was this reason. Every single contract they got from Dallas expires after next season. Oh. Duncan has 4 more years for a crap ton of money. It's not an attractive contract. It's one that must be accompanied by a sweetener, and the sweetener had to be more than just number 27. So here's the deal, Big O. I do this all week. I threw it to you Monday in our Acura Pembroke Pines report. I threw it to Clay Ferraro on Wednesday. Would you have traded Tyler Hero for Christian Wood?
Well, yes, if I could not get my stud, if I could not get Donovan
Which you don't know
Mitchell,
now.
which I
Which,
don't know now.
right.
So
And,
no,
and, and I would not. I'm kind
I
of
can't
surprised you
make
didn't
that
say
move
hell
now.
no.
I would not make that move right now at
Right.
all.
Right.
I have to first exercise my other moves, and then I would make that
So
move.
here's the point.
Because Christian Wood is my insurance that if I lose PJ Tucker,
Right.
I still have a power forward. And if I get to keep PJ Tucker, now I can play Wood and Bam, Wood and PJ at the same time, or Wood at times just alone at center. I can play him all kinds of ways. And he's also a 3-point shooter,
Yes.
so he can stretch the 4. So I really like that kid. I've been a Christian
But the
Wood
only
fan.
way that he
I
could
had him
have
as a
trumped
keeper. Yeah.
the only way that he could have trumped Dallas's offer was Tyler Hero, and that's too premature, and I think too
Right.
much to give up. That Christian Wood could wind up being a 6th or 7th man here, even if Tyler starts, depending if PJ comes back. So again, you get boxed in by your salary structure. This is a cap league. It has to be dollar for dollar. Dallas had the dollars. The Heat did not as far as contracts. Again, very odd salary structure. Everyone either makes $28 million at the very top or makes Tyler Hero's sweet spot, about $6 million. Everyone else minimum. Hard to make deals unless you can take my Duncan Robinson, please.
All right, before I let you go, any other names popping up that could be available to the Miami Heat via whale trades?
Yeah, I think Jeremy Grant is going to be the sort of top mid-tier name. Gives the Heat a lot of what they want. You make him your 3, even if it costs you Tyler Hero. That's the question. Is every trade will be up against this, and I will ask you every week, twice a week in our Acura Pembroke Pines report, would you be willing to trade Tyler Hero for player X? So I've thrown out a bunch of names. We've spoken about Jeremy Grant. Again, we'll get to this. No, I'll let you do another segment another time. Jeremy Grant, Harrison Barnes. In free agency, maybe a Joe Ingles. There's names out there. There are players. It's how much better does it make you? How much is it worth the risk? How much are you willing to give up? Teams apparently are willing to give up a lot for a Jeremy Grant. But you know what? The Heat have a way of also.
I like Jeremy Grant. Joe Ingles, I'm not giving up Tyler Hero.
And he's coming off an Achilles. So that's a tough thing. Harrison Barnes, I thought he was the guy who, because he was with the Warriors, succeeded. In Dallas and Sacramento hasn't. But there are names available. You can give yourself a better wing option. And what the final showed you this, whether it was Tatum and Brown, whether it was Clay and Steph, you need a second scoring option in your starting lineup, which you don't have when you are rolling out Jimmy, a scoring option, along with Bam, not a big-time scorer, along with PJ, along with Strus, a shooter, and along with Kyle Lowry at 36 years old. You have to find a small forward, or at the 2, if you move Jimmy up, however you play that, one more scoring starter. Every team needs something. We'll see what the Heat can do.
By the way, if I'm the Celtics, I'm a little disappointed with Jason Tatum at home in an elimination
He's a number 2 right now. He's not a number 1. And the perfect player for the Celtics right now who they could use Big O, ironically, I think Kyle Lowry would have made them so much of a better team. You wouldn't have had 23 turnovers a game. You would have gotten into offense. He would have stabilized you. I'm not saying the Heat are going to trade Kyle Lowry to them. I'm not saying they should. But when I watched that series, I said, you know what? If they had Kyle Lowry at least on the offensive end instead of Marcus Smart, they wouldn't have been so freaking clueless on so many possessions.
All right, what do you got going in the Sun Sentinel, my friend?
I wrote sort of what we spoke about, that the Heat have nothing at power forward. So is this the rare draft where you target a position, where you say, hey, best player available is a nice concept, but we need to go for something special? Spoke to Adam Simon, the Heat's director of player personnel. He said, nope. The times we've drafted for need, we had Hassan, we drafted Bam Adebayo. That worked out pretty well. We had Justice Winslow, we had Josh Richardson, even Dion Waiters. We took Tyler Hero. That worked out pretty well. There was a draft, they needed a point guard. They took Shabazz Napier. Didn't work out pretty well. So I think it will be the push-pull, but it's very unusual to go into draft night without a single power forward under contract for next season. So maybe when you and I talk next Monday and then again next Wednesday in our hour-long show, maybe this is the rare time you have to draft for need.
Get the Fountain of Youth for Udonis Haslem. Bring him back so we can start him again. There you go. Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heapy. Catch his work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Ira, thank you as always, my friend. Have a great weekend.
We'll talk to you Monday after the Heat's big weekend trade. Thank you, Big O.
You got it. There you go. You never know. It could end up happening. That is Ira Winderman and your Acura Pembroke Pines Miami Heat report.